So the next part here is about scheduling.
So, you know, when we're talking, we're going to go through this a little bit more. We've talked about it a bit here. The good attendance is a requirement. So really talking to them about this is not working at Superstore. It's not working at a punch in 9 o'clock. But choose not to go in that day. Kind of. I'm not feeling so good, so I'm not going to come today.
Yes.
This is letting them know that there's a real live person that they're coming to, and finding someone to replace you at the last minute is not going to be an easy task. So having a really good discussion about, if you're scheduled for 9 o'clock, you need to be there on time. Maybe you're relieving somebody else because you're doing 24-hour shifts.
Yes.
Maybe somebody did an overnight shift and they're waiting for you to come. This is really important to have this discussion and the discussion about how, that, you may not be feeling that well, but come get me up or help me kind of get rolling to find somebody else to come in, that kind of stuff. Have that kind of discussion. You do set the attendance schedule. What we're talking about here is that you know the skills of each of your employees.
Right.
And when you're looking at your skills of those employees, you may be scheduling them in for specific days for specific reasons for you.
Great point.
Because maybe you need somebody who drives. Maybe you need somebody that's a better cook that day. Maybe you need somebody, it's your shower day, and really like that person to do the shower. Really being able to describe to your new employee that it's not okay for you to contact another employee maybe just to reschedule, right?
Because they have to go through you.
They should go through you.
Yes.
Now, you may be the kind of person that is open to that, by the way, and has a process where, the 3 employees know each other and they'll just work it out amongst themselves. That could work for some people. For me, I don't like it that way because I'm so specific in my day, and those people don't know what my day looks like.
Yes.
So I've set things up in a certain way. Yep. But if you have certain days of your week that are pretty regular, and it doesn't really matter who's doing it, maybe you can set up that process. So it just depends on you and your personality.
Great points though there about the setting the attendance schedule to match the attendance strength versus just who's available. That's a great point about thinking about that one.
Having someone come in during the cleaning shift that hates to clean is not a good idea. It's just not a good idea.
They're just going to get a bad product at the end.
Absolutely. And then the person who normally does the cleaning will complain
about
the person that did the cleaning, right? So you have to keep this in mind. And sometimes you have no choice, and you're going to fill the shift with whoever, right? But, try and, connect people with things they like to do and that that they're good at, because that's going to make that relationship better.
Yeah, because there's nothing worse than streaky mirrors.
Yes. Streaky mirrors, yes.
You talked a little bit already about the backup list, depending on the individual. That's your call if you want to take on making sure that your staff go through you or they settle it up between themselves.
And just a reminder that, hopefully you have some employees that are available for backup. And again, it's really good when you're hiring someone to make sure you find out what other days are they available for, right?
Yep.
So maybe you're hiring for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but when you're hiring them, ask that extra question of, hey, what about Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? If I need you to fill in, which of those days are you available for?
Great point.
Because if you can find somebody that says they're available Monday to Wednesday for that shift that you have, and then tells you the other 2 days that you're available, wow, you've got a good one, right?
Yep.
As a backup.
Yeah, definitely.
If you fill all of your shifts with people that cannot do any backup at all, it's hard to maintain backup. Because if you don't have any shifts for someone, and you've hired them, you've trained them, the odds of them staying too long, it's not very good because they're going to look for other work.
How does this fit into the backup plan when you're going through the application process?
It fits right in there, right? Because when we look at who is available for backup, you usually start with your staff first.
Yes.
Right? You go to them first because they may be looking for extra hours or those kind of things. You always want to take care of your main staff, right? And then you're going to their next set of backup people as well. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The next one is that it's not always just, communication has to be two ways here, because you have to also give enough notification if you as the employer are going to be changing. So if you're having, things change, whatever it may be, for whatever reason it may be, you're required, and for a lot of different reasons. But probably the most important is that maintain that relationship. That you have to let them know and ahead of time as much as possible. If their hours will be changed. So
absolutely, and when you do your hiring again, it's really important to describe this, right? So maybe you're hiring somebody to come in for a night shift, right? Yep. And normally you go to bed, around 10 o'clock, and it's a 9 to 11 shift, for example. If they know in advance that there's some flexibility that somewhere between 8 and midnight is the time that we're going to go to bed, kind of thing, and it's already set up as a structure, then it's not a big problem, right? It's when you have a regular shift, and then all of a sudden you call them an hour beforehand and say, hey, I need to come in now. That may be a bit more challenging, right? So try and provide them as much notice as possible. Some people have regular shifts, by the way, Fernando, where it's just regular every week. For someone like myself, I actually schedule the week to week, depending upon what's happening in that week. I try to keep a fairly basic standard process, right? But I do change it based on what my needs are, each week. But those employees know when they're going to know their schedule. They expect that. They also know to contact me as well, so they let me know if there's something going on in their life, right? So it allows that flexibility to say, hey, look, I have a chance to go to a concert. Is it okay you don't book me in on Thursday night next week?
Right.
Because I'm just doing the schedule the week before. Hey, no problem. I can switch that around a bit for you, right?
Yeah.
So set up the system that works best for you. I'm a bit of a control freak, though, too, right? So that's why it's easier for me to kind of bounce people around based on their skills and when they're available, and recognize I might have to change things around. If you're somebody that's not quite that way, then having the regular standard, days is probably a good idea for you, because that guarantees that the employee knows when their shift is and will always be coming in on those days, right?
Yep.
Reminder to always tell them that they're going to work on a statutory holiday, okay? Very important. I go back to when I was younger and forget to tell the employees that statutory holidays they have to come in. I remember one person not coming to get me up the next morning because he's like, what are you talking about? It's a stat day. Oh, I didn't know I had to come in.
Stat day for everybody.
So involve your staff when ready. And, this can mean many things, but when ready could be, ready to have the discussion about the days, whether it's going to be. Yeah. Or, again, it could be literally when ready to have them work it out between the other staff, again. Yep. So those kind of things can happen.
And also when you've developed enough of a relationship with a staff member that you can have those open discussions also. Because sometimes, at the very beginning you want to be probably a little bit more structured, going from this is it, we're scheduling it, and then later on having that flexibility built in there a little bit, because you know them well, you know what their life's like, you know what they have. If they're having a good week or a bad week, if they have personal problems, all those sort of things, right? Because they're human.
Yeah, Fernando, it goes back to earlier when we talked about how how maybe I'm not a morning person or something like that, right?
Yes.
Your employees are going to also have situations. They may have kids and their kids are, broke their arm or something. All of a sudden they're distracted all that day.
Yes.
It comes back to open communication, talking about stuff. And then you can allow for different leniencies on different things if you understand what's going on.
And that's the whole idea behind good scheduling. It's a conversation that,
Yes.
So,
and you want a schedule that works for both parties.
Exactly.
Right? If the person's not a morning person and you're getting them to come in at 6 a.m., the likelihood of them being late or not available to come at that time, don't schedule them at 6 o'clock if they don't want to be scheduled for 6.
Yep.
Try and find a time that works for them. And if it doesn't, but if you need to get up at 6, well, it's either that person or someone else, right? Yep. But don't don't waste your time. You'll know you have a 3-month probationary period. We keep talking about that. If it's not going to look like it's going to work with that person, let them know it's not working and move on, right? To somebody that doesn't mind doing the 6 a.m.